Okay, hello everyone. Today's presentation is Group 6 or Group J, and today we're going to talk about analysis and review about fiction, poetry, drama, and film. And about our member is Nurfaiza, Hilmiah Bahanan, and Kotrunada. Okay, let's talk about it.
How to analyze fiction. Analyzing novels and short stories. Literary analysis looks critically at the work of fiction in order to understand how the parts contribute to the whole. When analyzing a novel or a short story, you need to consider elements such as the context, setting, characters, plot, literary devices, and themes. Remember that a literary analysis isn't merely a summary or review, but rather an interpretation of the work and an argument about it based on the text. How to analyze fiction? Take note as you read. Write your ideas down as you work through the story. Analyzing fiction involves asking yourself a series of questions and possibly reviewing the material for content. Track the main event. Get a grip on the plot of the story to understand what happens. This is called the plot. Ask yourself the following questions. What is the main series of the events that take place in the story? Are these events in chronological order or do they flash back or forward? What is the main conflict in the story? What is the turning point in the story? Plots can be unified, meaning they work in order with a beginning, middle, or end. They can be episodic, hit together through how they affect the protagonist. Plots can be also be polyphonic, which means that smaller subplots are interwoven through the main plot to enhance the overall meaning of the events. Identifying the setting where the story takes place can be an essential detail. Where does the story take place? What is the time period? How does the setting affect the story? Could the story be told in another setting? How does it affect the characters? Dig into key passages. Look at the nitty-gritty of the essential portions of the book. What imagery does the author use? This is easiest to identify if you take notes throughout reading or watching the story, since it can be a chapter or just a few words. In what places does the author evoke your senses, touch, taste, smell, sight, and hearing? Note the point of view. Who or what is narrating the story frames the event. This is an important step in analyzing the viewpoint from which the events and the setting are recounted to you. Is it a subjective or objective point of view? If the narrative uses the words I and me through the story, it is a first-person narrative. Is your protagonist narrating the book, or is it an observer of the events? If the narrator reliable or unreliable, is the character aware of narrating the book? If the narrator only uses I and me in dialect, then it is likely a third-person narrative. Choose whether the third person is omniscient, all-knowing of the events, or if it is limited or told from perspective of one character. Assesses the characters. You may want to track a list of all the characters in the story. Which character changes most during the plot? This is called the protagonist. Who causes the change in the character? This is called the antagonist. What do the appearances, actions, and dialect tell you about their interests and beliefs? Then identify the style and tone, rhetorical flourishes, and mood-setting decision are key. Is it formal or informal? Does the narrator make you laugh or feel sad? The ways in which sentences and chapters are structured can have a large effect on how you respond to the story. Establish the themes. The themes is the main idea of the story or the unifying concept. There can be a number of themes in a story. Which theme do you see as the most important? Take a look at the book in a larger context. What does the story's theme say about the world, human experience, or human values? What was the author trying to convey? Break down any symbols. Not every story will have symbolism, but a lot of fiction will. Symbolism means the use of objects, people, or elements of the story to represent something else. They often represent subjective concepts like grief, wisdom, or motherhood. Do any of the characters symbolize something? Is the setting symbolic? Symbolism is easier to spot the second time you watch or read the story. When you are already aware of the general events of the story and can focus on underlying meaning. Not any key rhetorical devices. Figurative language is a signal from the author that you should pay attention. Figurative language is similar to imagery and symbolism. It is a way the author uses words to mean more than one thing. The most common ways to do this are through simile, metaphor, and personification. Simile is to compare something using the words like or as. Metaphor compares two things without using like or as. Personification is using human qualities to describe inanimate things. Here is the example of the book. The title is The Little Prince by Anthony de Saint-Exupéry. The analysis and review. The Little Prince draws unflattering portraits of grown-up as being hopelessly narrow-minded. In contrast, children come to wisdom through open-mindedness and willingness to explore the world around them and within themselves. The main theme of the fable is expressed in secret that the fox tells the little prince. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essentially is invisible to the eye. However, the novel ultimately became a beloved classic. It is story resonating with readers all of ages. The simple tale tells the story of a child, the little prince, who travels the universe gaining wisdom. The moral of the story. On the second planet, the little prince meets a vain man who spends his time admiring himself and seeking the admiration of the others. But living for the admiration of others is to never live for oneself, and living for only oneself is to never love or care for another. The conflict of the story, the childlike perspective of the prince, and to some extent those of the narrator, are in conflict within the settling, stifling beliefs of the adult world, rising action of the beliefs he has been spun by his rose. The prince travels to neighboring planets and eventually lands on Earth. The symbol of the story, rose, a symbol of love, beauty, and femininity. The little prince didn't immediately discern the true inner essence of beauty and was captivated by the rose appearances and beguiling nature. The lesson of this book is the king teaches the little prince that judging yourself is far more difficult. It is only through judging ourselves that we can grow as individuals. But curious and explore the world, when the little prince meets a geographer who refuses to explore his own world because he is too busy researching for offlands. The conclusion of this book is The Little Prince is a story about a suicide. What else is it that the little prince does in the desert, if not self-sacrifice? He dies for a rose, a fragile sentimental flower on his tiny planet that he fell in love with as a child.
Okay, everyone, I am Nur Faiza, and in this opportunity, I'm going to explain about how to analyze a portrait. The first step is read the poem and take notes. So everyone, the first step in analyzing a poem is reading. Read the poem at least twice. As you read, jot down your first impression, reactions, memorize personal experience tied to it. So, for example, I will read the poem in the B-side. So the title is Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. Whose woods they are, I think I know. His house is in the village toad. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow. My little horse must think it queer to stop without a farmhouse near, between the woods and frozen lake, the darkest evening of the year. He gives his harness bells a shake to ask if there is some mistakes. The only odor sounds the sweep of easy wine and downy flake. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promised to keep, and meals to go before I sleep, and meals to go before I sleep. Okay, so everyone, after reading a poem at least twice, and the second step is identify the title hints of the poem. You should also look at the title of the poem. It can give you a clue about the poem. And let's see on the picture beside. The title is about stopping by woods on a snowy evening. Okay, from the title we can identify that the title is refers to an incident and that creates an image in the reader's mind and sounds like a little of a painting And the title is Could Be a Poem About Nature. Okay. Okay, the third step is find the literal meaning. So everyone, now try to find the literal meaning of the poem. If they are words you don't understand, use a dictionary. If they are unfamiliar names or concepts mentioned, search them in an encyclopedia. For example, let's see on the picture. Okay, what is literal meaning first? Literal meaning is arti or harfiah or asal kata. So in the picture, we can see woods, and literal meaning of the woods is forest. And the second word is queer. Okay, the literal meaning of the queer is strange. Okay, so let's continue on the fourth step. Okay, the fourth step is identify the narrator, characters, and the setting of the poem. So, in analyzing a poem, it is vital to identify the narrator, the characters, and the setting. Remember that the narrator of the poem is not always the poet. For example, after reading the poem twice, we can see or we can know the setting of the poem is woods on a snowy evening, and the narrator a solitary rider admiring the beauty of nature. And the fifth step is look at the structure of the poem. By the poem, we can know but the structure is rhyme scheme AABA, BBCB, CCDC, DD, or rubaiyat stanza, and 4 syllable in each line. Okay, the sixth step is make a summary. So after you read poem at least twice, now try to make a summary of the poem. If you like, you can write down a brief paraphrase of the poem. The summary will reflect the surface meaning of the poem. Okay, for example, the poem with the title Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening, and the summary is the narrator is stopping by some woods on a snowy evening. He is entranced by the beauty of the scenes and is tempted to stay longer, but he acknowledges his obligation and the long distance yet to be traveled before he can rest for the night. Okay, and the seventh step is identify the literary devices used in the poem. So try to identify the literary devices used by the writer. What are the images and symbols used by the poet? How has the poet used imagery and symbols? Does he use other literary devices such as paradox, hyperbole, antithesis, etc.? Like for example, the literary devices from the poem that we have to read is the first is imagery, visual, tactile, and auditory. And the second is hyperbole, and the word is dark evening and meals to go. The third is alliteration, repetition of W, S, and H. And the last one is personification. And the word is My Little Horse Mustang in Queer. Okay, the last step is identify the theme of the poem. When you analyze all the above said features in a poem, you can ask yourself the question, what is the main intention of the poem? What does he want to convey through the poem? This is the theme of the poem. You can also ask how he has conveyed the theme of the poem. What techniques has he used to bring out of theme? Okay, it's about the poem. Okay, now we're going to talk about how to analyze a drama. Yes, everyone, in general process to analyzing a drama, in the first step is examine the title, the second step is read the play, the third step is study the ending, the fourth step is examine the play by part, and the last one is determine the tone. But in analyzing a drama, we have to know the first is the theme, the characters, the setting, language, and plot. Okay, let's talk about it. Okay, now we're going to talk or analyze about characters. And the first one is Juliet. Juliet is Capulet's daughter. She's present as a young and innocent Dawson, not yet 4 years old. And the second one is Romeo, Montague's son, who is loved and respected in Verona. And the third is Theo, kinsman to the prince and friend of Romeo, or Romeo's friend. He is talkative, and tries to tease Romeo out of his melancholy frame of mind. And the next is Tybalt, Lady Capulet's nephew and Juliet's cousin. Tybalt is violent and whole-tempered, with a strong sense of honor. And the next one is the Juliet's nursemaid, who acts as confidant and messenger of Romeo and Juliet. And another character you can search on link below. Okay. Okay, now we're going to talk about the theme. And before it, now we're going to analyze a drama about. Okay, now about the setting. From drama Romeo and Juliet, the setting is in Verona, Italy. And next about language. Okay, and about language, you can see this when Romeo explained to Friar Lawrence why that would be better than banishment, and being part from Juliet in Action 3, Scene 3. Here, Romeo uses antithesis to try and explain his feelings. Okay, the last one is about plot. Romeo and Juliet is a play written by Shakespeare. It is a tragic love story where the two main characters, Romeo and Juliet, are supposed to be sworn enemies but falling in love. Due to their family's ongoing conflict, they cannot be together. So they kill themselves because they cannot cope with being separated from one another. Romeo and Juliet is a Shakespearean tragedy. Okay, thank you.
Okay, now I want to explain about how to analyze a film. How to analyze film? There's a lot of advice out there about writing film review from a critic perspective, each with varying degrees of advice. I've been analyzing movies critically for 6 years, and I've personally found that review don't need to be complicated. Rather, They need to be honest and encourage discussion. Here are the steps I take from start to finish when screening films. Step 1. Before you watch the movie. The harder part of this first step is going to be avoiding doing too much research or reading others' review prior to watching the movie. I find that it's more liberating to the experience to go in with an air of unfamiliarity without being affected by the trailer, marketing, and other review before watching a movie. You can really put your best foot forward to creating your authentic opinion and turning that into a movie review people can trust. Step 2. Watching the movie. I believe you only need to see a film once in order to critique a film. Of course, there are those who prefer at least a couple viewing. But from my experience, multiple viewing can actually skew your assessment. If you spend your first viewing pausing, playing back, and rewatching segments at a time, you won't get a sense for the way the film was meant to be enjoyed. This will help later when I'm construction my review for brief summary recaps, breaking down the theme and reflection on the direction or acting. This is where my checklist comes into play. When I write a review, I do my best to cover all aspects of filmmaking that went into creating the final product, including plot, themes and tone, acting and character, direction, score, cinematography, product design, special effect, editing, page, dialogue. Step 4. Writing the review. I put a lot of care into the organization of my review and make sure my thoughts are read in a concise manner to help my audience understand where I'm coming from. If you don't put your voice into your critique, your audience will find it difficult to understand your perspective, connect with you as a reviewer, and most importantly, they may not be able to trust your opinion. This is analyzed from Hollywood movie Avenger Age of Ultron. Observation, action skin. Description demonstrates advanced technology and assists visualization of impressive effects seen when Ultron robot attack and Tony Stark laboratory conditions were extraordinary sophisticated. Number 2. How to eat. Drink. Eat standing while peering at it and drink using a spoon, fork, knife, gathered at the dining table at home. The evidence was seen when the Avengers were at Hawkeye House to hide. Number 3. Culture. Western films tend to show the freedom of relation between men and women even though they are not husband and wife busy. Seen when the Avengers fought against the robots, there were people who helped, namely people from SHIELD. Number 4. Clothing. The women do not hesitate to wear revealing clothes seen during the scene of the rescue of the townspeople. There are women who wear revealing clothes. Avenger Wanda wearing clothes with miniskirt. The Avenger wear distinct clothes. Number 5. Conversation. Saying harsh words when emotional or joking conversation is often even too Hart used high-pitched selfies seen when Hulk and Tony do research in the process of making Ultra Tony act as if he is the most right. Introduction by shaking hand and directly mentioning name. Number 6. Settlement. Residential settlements do not look close, but there is distance between one house and another. Number 7. Visualization. The use of dominant and cool visual effects makes scene after scene in this film seem real, as evidenced by the appearance of the Hulk, Iron Man, Ultron Robot, and other Avengers. Review film Avenger Age of Ultron. Avenger Age of Ultron open with the scene of the Avenger attacking the Hydra headquarters led by Baron Wolfgang von Tracker, but have a deep grudge against the Avenger, especially Iron Man, who had their parent killed in a bomb. Together with Bruce Banner, Tony finds a supercomputer brain in Loki One's, which is larger is mass than Tony Jaffer's computer brain. When they connect, the brain is Loki can take over Jarvis' brain full of Avenger mission information. As a result, Tony Ultron has a super sophisticated brain with information on the destruction made by the Avengers. At the same time, the Avengers also went to Africa with the same goal, knowing Ultron's evil plans. The Great Avenger hit until finally Fury comes to call them back. This time, Tony Stark is supported by Thor, who knows the game on Loki One is one of the 7 infinite games in the world. At the end of the story, like Wanda, Maximoff, Rhodes, and Vision enters as member of the new Avenger who will help protect the world. Okay, this is my explanation. Thank you for your attention.